Good morning, all well. Welcome to the webinar. Is Indian technical textile industry ready for global play? Thanks to ITJ for conducting this webinar, and we are happy to have esteemed panelists with us who can take care of the entire all issues, challenges, as well as how things can happen post COVID-19. So the way we are now in this particular webinar, which has been conducted by ITJ, that is Indian Textile Journal. We are also happy to have our association partner, Indian Technical Textile Association, which is the backbone of our technical textile industry. Friends, we have seen the way things have happened in this COVID-19 issue. Most of the industries, they have faced lot many challenges, lot many problems, and only one industry which has done remarkably well against all the odds and when it was required. That's why when this particular webinar name is coined and I saw the name play, I thought it is a play, is not nothing but a game. And when it is a game, we always think of cricket, our own loved game of cricket, wherein we are very much famous in the globe for 2020 matches, wherein we just keep on doing quite well when the situation is not with us. Same situation is now is with Indian technical textile industry, and we have done remarkably well when we were not having any manufacturing capacity for kits which was to be supplied, medical kits to be supplied for the industry. We have done remarkably well. We have done more than billions of kits. We have supplied to them with masks. Whatever was required was been done by the medical textiles as well as by the protective textiles. So this particular thing, we wanted to take it ahead in the form of a webinar and assess the Indian technical textile industry. We want to map it with our existing strengths, how we are doing it, what would be our future, and at the same time, if at all we want to export, how are the global markets. So with me, there are eminent personalities which are joining this. I will go alphabetically. Amit Agarwal, Chairman and MD of CTM Technical Textiles, who is CMD and has gone through all the phases of putting up a new technical textile project, which can take care of agrotech and geotech, and has done remarkably well to have association to take it forefront. He is also vice chairman of Indian Technical Textile Association for many years. I have seen him with his files going to doors and doors of ministries, knocking the doors and open up the opportunities for all of us. Our second speaker, Dr. Anup Rakshit. He doesn't need any introduction, of course, in the space of technical textiles, having more than 4 decades of experience in technical textiles, in conventional textiles, and having worked as executive director of ETA since it was formed. And I have seen him, doing so many things for all of us. So, Dr. Rakshit, welcome to this particular webinar. Our another speaker is Dr. Seshadri Ramkumar. He's seeing us from abroad, sitting in USA. In fact, we should say good night to him, but as it is for India, which is at his heart, he is live now and he is talking to us and sharing his experience. Welcome, Dr. Seshadri Ramkumar, who is professor at Texas Tech University, and he is pioneer in technical textiles. He has gone through various researches which have happened globally. He is also mentoring people from India on various fronts. Only my worry is that he never meets me in India. He meets me only in USA, because when he comes to India, all of us are grabbing him for our own use. So that's what is Dr. Seshadri Ramkumar, very dear friend of me. We may have access to Chairman and MD of Khosla Group, Mr. Pramod Khosla. If he joins in, we will take some questions with him. But I think there was some issue with his joining. Coming to the Indian Textile Journal, who is hosting this particular webinar. Almost 130 years, ITJ is working with technical textile industry, with conventional textile industry. So from fiber up to the finished products, ITJ has done remarkably well for 130 years, well-known, well-blended with the textile industry, and they have also helped entire industry during these COVID times. Their website, through online lectures and various other forums, they have helped in the industry to come out of this particular COVID pandemic. I will start. In fact, the structure of this particular session would be that there would be questions to be answered by the panelists, and each panelist will have 2 minutes to answer each question. At the same time, we'll be having certain poll questions. They will be appearing on your screen. My first poll question is on your screen. Which are the key challenges before Indian textile industry to become a global leader? So you have 4 options. I again repeat the question: which are the key challenges before Indian technical textile industry when competing globally? You have 4 options. Select one of the options. Whether 1, lack of availability of cost-effective raw materials; second, low investment in R&D; third, dependence on imported technology and machinery; and fourth one is lack of market knowledge, especially for the global markets. Please select one of the options. My colleague Tanvir will give the result.
Uh, 11% was lack of availability of cost-effective raw materials, 32% dependence on imported technology and machinery, 28% low investment in R&D, and 30% in lack of market knowledge.
So lack of market knowledge is 30%. Fine. Now let's start with our discussion. Main discussion topic is technical textiles, the Indian technical textile industry. We have seen many things which have happened in medical textiles during this COVID-19 issue. And I think none other than Dr. Rakshit would be the right person to tell us exactly what has happened, how things have happened, how we have switched over from a non-player to a prominent player to go to number 2 position now in medical textiles. Dr. Rakshit, please tell us exactly what has happened during this pandemic 19 issue. Dr. Rakshit, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Michael, and good morning to all of you. I would like to take back first to all of you in the month of sometime in the March or the February or March, when this epidemic started. It was still not become the pandemic, it was epidemic. Now, we were actually lucky enough to take the action at that point of time itself, foreseeing that what could be its horrible effect next couple of months. Now, if you see that time, if we talk about how to protect ourselves, that means we talk about the PPE, personal protective equipment, which includes the coverall, face mask, goggles, shoe covers, cap, etc., etc. Now, at that time, it is always talked that it was zero, but I would say from the industry it was not zero. It may be level of something like 1,000, 2,000 per day, or maybe little less, because so many people were in medical textiles earlier, so they have actually quickly could convert into these requirements, and it was something like starting with maybe let us say 1,000, and now these 1,000 has become now today almost like 5 lakhs of both. That means PPE coverall plus the face mask. With both type of face masks, I would say the regular 3-ply mask and also the N95 mask. Now this is, and now India has become the second largest producer of PPE kits. Now, this we take a lot of pride today on behalf of the Indian technical textile industry. Now, this journey was not so smooth and not so easy. Now, there was a very good coordination between the government bodies, I would say state and the central government both, and also our technical textile industry. And I would like to add the contribution of the apparel industry as well. Now, what are these? If we say in short, in few bullet points, if I want to say that what are these links were established? Then when somewhere in the third week of March, when the lockdown suddenly started, now everything got frozen. Your movement, your these things, everything was, your factories, everything was shut down. Now the problem was then how to get the material, and of course these comes under the essential items. So these factories and these movements were free at that time. But there were a lot of hurdles which were solved for linking the various members of the supply chain across the country. That is number one. Number two is that facilitating the transport material on emergency basis under this lockdown situation. This could happen only a very good coordination between the various departments in the state and also the interstate. Then the another point is the coordination at the local government level to facilitate this production. You know, lot of permissions were required to be taken. Then the movement of the workmen were also another problem. So these all were taken care in the local administration, and our industry and the local administration work together to make it happen. Then the another problem was the how to get these products tested and what are their standards. At that time, we only had Citra because they were a designated center of excellence of medical textiles. So we had no choice. Now this first to start with them, only one laboratory which is in the southern tip of entire India. Now the problem started. There was no courier available. There was no postage available. So how to send this material to them? So then at that point of time, work started. We also from industry, we impressed upon the government that this is a problem of the industry. Then we must try to find a solution. So gradually, in our infrastructure, DRDO laboratories were equipped to do certain tests. Then the ordnance factories were able to do certain tests, which these test labs they have been using for their own quality control and the product development purposes. But with the intervention of the government, these laboratories were then made available to the industry so that they could get it tested. And today we are happy to say that there are 8 such laboratories of under DRDO, DRDE, and also the ordnance factories all across the country, and Citra is there. Now we have got about 9. So these 9 happened during almost a month. So gradually, I would say from 1,000 number per day, how we achieved gradually to almost like today 4 to 5 lakhs per day of your PPE kits. And not that is not the all. We had actually also tried to influence 2 segments. One segment is people who are having the infrastructure of manufacturing non-woven spun bond melt blown or SMS or SSMMS, these type of industries. We have a couple of them in India. Only SS, it could be more than 100. SMS and SSMMS, these combinations could be almost like a dozen companies in India. And also there are lamination and coating were required on this. So we tried, even Textile Commissioner's Office, we are very closely working with them to request them and influence them to come into this manufacturing of fabric. That is as far as fabric is concerned. There is another in the downstream for making the garment. Then at that point of time, I would say sometime in the month of end of March or beginning of April, there were a lot of garment manufacturing factories were not having work, which was mostly controlled by the Apparel Export Promotion Council or some of the apparel associations, knitting associations, various places in India. We also tried that, and the regional offices of the textile textile commissioner's office helped a lot, because they have a network all over the India, all across the India. So we coordinated with them. We told our member, please take all help from them, from the local bodies, and then we tried to influence them, and we also guided them how to do the seam sealing, how to these things, what are the sizes, what are their standards of these PPE, of face mask, and also the cover. That is how we could develop. Today there are almost 400 to 450 fabric manufacturers and 500 plus garment manufacturers from the technical textile industry, plus the people who have come into from the apparel industry. So now this team has become so big, network has become so big, so we could achieve these 4 to 5 lakh pieces of these PPE kits per day. So that is
Okay.
that is the one is today's process. So we will go ahead with some other points later.
Great.
Yes,
Thanks,
Mr.
thanks, Dr. Rakshit. Yeah, thank you very much. Dr. Ram, you are seeing us from so many seats across. We are doing something. We are minuscule as far as our market share in the global market for technical textile is concerned. How do you perceive India or Indian technical textile industry? What are we doing? Whether it is remarkably well, whether there is a potential to grow. What are your views? You have to treat this not as an Indian, but as a neutral personality, and tell us and guide us how we can go ahead. Dr. Ram, please.
First, namaskar. It's really a
Namaskar.
pleasure that I have been asked to participate, even though it's midnight for me. I'm happy to do. And before I begin, I wish to really convey my sincere prayers for the health of all. So I am in a country which is now ranked #1 in terms of this pandemic aftermath. Today we crossed 100,000 deaths in United States. That's because people live longer, and age is one factor to this. Having said that, yes, what is happening? So I'm very glad that Dr. Rakshit gave a prelude to what is happening. So first and foremost, attention is turning towards countries other than China. So that's the first point. Even governments, particularly Japan and United States, are taking this situation. It's been going on for nearly 2 years, where they are looking for alternate connections to the supply chain. This started with the trade war between the United States and China. So slowly people were beginning to look for other opportunities, and there came this pandemic situation. So first and foremost, attention is turning beyond the regular supply chain. So there seems to be some interest to look beyond the established chain for 30 years. So that's there. Second thing is, people are looking towards India per se, but particularly United States. Where am I? There today, they are not much aware of the Indian technical textile setup, to be honest. But they are looking, even to me, 1 or 2 leading procurers of hospital garments from Philadelphia area, Pennsylvania state, have really asked me to look for opportunities beyond the Chinese border. So that is happening. So that's a positive signal. So where we are, if you look at where China and India, that's what we have to compare now, because Dr. Rakshit is the able person, and of course I have Mr. Amit Agarwal, whom I have known for 20 years now, since we started knowing through the Gujarat, vibrant Gujarat, for a long history with all of you here. So for Indian situation, I would defer to these gentlemen on the panel because they are more qualified. But I'll give you a global picture and place where India could play a part. So we have to compare 2 countries, China and India, where we are. If you look at the total value, there's some numbers which are just played around. but let's take it is around 220 billion global technical textiles, of which 56 to 60 billion is non-woven part. So roughly 1/4 is non-woven. These are the numbers I borrow from IDANA and INDA. So more or less authoritative numbers. So out of that, $150 billion is outside the non-woven sector. So non-woven is one segment of technical textiles that we should know. Where is India? India is roughly around 5%, right? Whereas China is roughly around 20%. United States and Europe constitute 50%. So the rest is around 5 to 7%. So there is a gap with technical textile, but I'm going to place it in such a way for entrepreneurs. I was told that a lot of business people are there. So I'll walk you through as if I'm teaching in the class. So if you are looking at the technical textile sector, so China is 15 to 20 billion apart from us. Okay. So India is roughly around 10 to 15 billion, 5 to 7%. So it's 10% gap. Let's take this 10% gap between China and India, or to be more liberal, 15% gap between India and China in terms of technical textile capability. So the technical textile industry is such that production equates consumption. So that's given. Okay, it's rough. Okay, so they are 15% ahead of us in the market share, and they are roughly 15 years ahead of us. But compare and contrast with the overall textile and clothing, where the Chinese market share is around 35 to 38%, and India is around 5 to 7%. So the gap is wider in the commodity textile. That's what the people in the technical textile industry to know. So it's easy to play the game and match up with China, where the gap is not as high as the commodity textile and clothing sector. That's the one point we should take. Then what do we do? Three things we have to do. First and foremost, like Dr. Rakshit pointed to, the crisis provided an opportunity, and I'm very pleased to know that the Indian technical textile sector and in Indian textile sector per se geared up, took the challenge and have met the requirement. That's good. But that's only one product in the basket. Amit knows this, which he is crying out for long, that improve the product basket. This is the issue even with the commodity textile. One, we got to use this opportunity, take this momentum and try to diversify and enhance the product basket. Second, cost competitiveness with China. That is the problem. Why the United States government is looking for moving the supply chain beyond the Chinese region is cost. So Wall Street Journal reported that before the COVID situation happened, 80% of the commodity 3-ply polypropylene mass, global, 80% was controlled by China. That's what the problem happened, right? It's the cost, economy. So that's what gave the edge towards the Chinese product, even in the United States. Then United States industry realized, and they, like Indian industry is doing, they are gearing up again because they went away from this commodity production of 3-ply mass. So that's the important thing. Enlarge the product basket, look for competitiveness, and third most important thing is you should not sacrifice the quality. So the gap is not as wide as a commodity textile and clothing sector, where the gap is around 30%. Here it is only 15%. So you can match up three things: product basket enhancement, work out the cost, and then the third one is the quality factor. If we could get a hold on all these, given that the global regions are looking beyond China, so people are already writing, whether it's a Bloomberg News or Wall Street Journal, they are also all are writing as recent as this month, China is going to have flight risk with regard to its product. Japanese government is putting out $2.2 billion to move some of their companies from Chinese shore. These are all hypothetical. I don't know whether it will happen or not, but things are moving. And United States government is very serious, and they are moving out a network called Economic Prosperity Network, which is bringing groups of countries together: New Zealand, Australia, Vietnam, India, Japan, and Korea. So they are trying to form this kind of an economic alliance, which is known as Global Prosperity Network. So there may be some relaxation of tariffs among these groups. So politically and economically, things are happening. Now, if we could focus on the technical aspects of product enhancement, medical textiles are not the only component of technical textile sector, but they are an important component which has come to play in this current situation. Use that opportunity, enhance the product basket, work out the cost competitiveness, focus on quality. When it comes to quality, testing plays a part, and I'm glad that testing centers have been geared up in India. So all are in place. So now work on this. A stool has to stand on 3 legs, and these are the 3 legs. And if we could do that, I think people are really looking into opportunities beyond China, and India will have an opportunity there.
Thank you, Dr. Ram. Just one point: whether Americans are seeing India as a great player?
They are eyeing on India. I will leave it like that.
Okay, so we are under observation, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So that's good. Great. Thanks,
And
Dr. Ram.
for the benefit of the business leaders, I think first week of May, Wall Street Journal wrote an article: "Is Indian manufacturing geared up to take the flight risk from China?" That's a very good article. You know, Wall Street Journal sets the trend. Money speaks.
Great.
So
Thank you.
I recommend people to look at that journal, that article. Is Indian manufacturing geared up to take the flight risk from China? So that's a good article to look at it.
Thank you, Ram. Yeah, coming to Amit, the budget 2021, there was an announcement of National Mission for Technical Textiles. You are leading the industry through ITA as well as through your own unit. You are taking care of many options. What is your view? What is your perspective? And what are your suggestions for the government as well as for the users or for the manufacturers to look at the competitiveness of the technical textile space? Amit Agarwal, please.
Yeah, very good morning, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Ram and Dr. Rakshit, Mr. Avinash, and all the attendees. Well, with this budget in the National Technical Textile Mission that had happened in the budget, there were basically 4 components in there. But if we talk about the major component with regards to our subject today, which is with regards to the global outlook and the global understanding about the technical textiles, I think there were 2 components. We specifically talked about how do we make the product exportable, or rather promotion or subsidize the Indian manufacturers to take it outside world. So that was the one of the major part was the market development into this technical textile mission, apart from the research development and skill development. So I think the government is doing it bits by making such a technical textile mission for the manufacturers to take it abroad. But if you ask me one question, what is my suggestion with regards to the technical textile industry, then I would think only one point which says about ease of doing business. You see, whatever Dr. Ram is saying about the manufacturers can do their own bit, but you know, when we talk about the HSN codes, when we talk about, you know, whether the product is a plastic product or a technical textile product, is a textile material, you know, when we have the difference in terms of the GST, where we have the input at 18%, output at 5%, and then we have the inverted duty structures. All these creates, you know, a bottleneck for an entrepreneur to really go out and start moving into the international market or for the domestic market. So I think ease of doing business is what is my recommendation to anybody, and for that matter, any industry, you know, because as an entrepreneur, I want the other things to be settled before, you know, I start running into my own work and own industry and all my customers and my raw materials and my innovation and my R&D and stuff like that. These are all the things that I have to do at my end. But if the basic platform of doing ease of business is given to the entrepreneur, I think he can take his job well. So National Textile Mission, if you talk to me about specifically, is the content about the promotion, the market development, which speaks about. I think that is what I would like to say as far as this is concerned.
Okay,
thank you.
Just one additional question to you, Amit. You are running a family business. So what do you think that family business would have impact on the technical textiles, which is a great innovative products? some guidelines on that.
All over the world, technical textiles is basically family-driven businesses. Why? Because, you know, at the starting point, technical textile can be divided into two areas: technical textile per se, and the other, which Dr. Ram said, is the commodity business. The moment you talk about technical textile, is more so from the innovation point of view in terms of R&D. So entrepreneurs who are technical in nature, they tend to be starting the companies and reach to a certain amount of level. So that is where the family businesses or the entrepreneur businesses come into the play. And at one point in time, if they have made a dent, then they would, rather than sell it off to international companies. For example, what happened in Germany recently, the HKO, which is one of the biggest in terms of the insulation industry, technical textile, again, they sold it off to Saint Gobain. So moving forward, these kind of things will happen when, you know, you reach a specific scale. But the starting point will be family-owned businesses, will be the starting point, because that is where not even big capital is required to start a technical textile company.
Okay, thank you very much. See, technical textiles are functional products. Let's take example of a filter. If at all we want a filter to take care of a size of 5 microns, it has to perform exactly and should not allow anything which is more than 5 microns. So there are many shapes of the filter. There are many materials which are being used, and lot of R&D work goes in. I would like to understand from Dr. Rakshit, through his wide experience, what are the efforts of Indian technical textile industry towards R&D activities, whether things are happening quite well, whether you are happy, exactly how things are happening. Dr. Rakshit, please.
Yeah, see, I would like to begin that in this field, there is a gap of the R&D support from the institution to the industry, because predominantly in this industry has got two wide variations. One is very big houses who are having their own strength of their own R&D and market research to bring the information from abroad, from the various other buyers, and develop in-house. Say, if you go to the S and M category of this part of the industry, they really need their help on developing the products, understanding the standard, understanding the different test methods, what are those test methods, because they are not having that much of strength of qualified engineers to take care of their R&D part. Now, in this case, we have tried to do from ITA. In current example, if you take only that for the last 2 to 3 months, we had actually tried to help a lot of industry to understand the standard and many times to develop these products also. And the people I had mentioned earlier, that those who were in the apparel industry, they were really, number of people I was talking to them, that they were not really aware how to do the seam sealing, how to do the heat sealing of tapes and other things, because that was something new to them. And many people did not have this instrument also, so they had to bring in those instruments. Then particularly the property of that PPE cloth, where many people were thinking, because currently that I will deal with that little later, that there are spun bond and melt blown and spun bond various layers together, and it needs lamination. So because of the shortage of this thing, many people have come into this area where these become a plastic sheet, because the test standard, we all know that because of the emergency situation, these test standards were compromised, and whatever we are using, there only one test is there, is the blood penetration test, that also at a lower pressure level, which is 3.78 bar. But ideally it should be at least around 13 to 14 pressure level, so that the blood should not penetrate and it should not harm the doctors and the health workers. Now, coming back to the problem, what you are seeing today is 4 or 5 lakhs of coverall or the kits are being made. They are not of international standard. They are to meet up our current requirement, emergency situation to fight this outbreak of the COVID-19. Now, our thing is how to go or become a global player. Now, if really we want to become a global player, we need to really understand what are these international needs. What Dr. Ram has said is the mantra should be the quality, quality and quality, and adhering to the standard. Once my lot of industry members are there, they know I have been personally interacting with them in many cases, and I have told them also, be prepared to make the breathable coverall fabric. Already, let us say, out of these what I mentioned, there are almost 400 fabric manufacturers now. I think today they are almost, which was 2 months, 3 months back, there are only 5 or 6. Now I am sure that has gone up to at least 15 to 20. Those who have already tested, because I am in touch with the Citra and DRDO lab also, I am getting feedback that there are many people have tested their fabric and it has passed as well. So it's a good news for the preparedness for going global. Now,
That's good.
but the problem is that still today I get feedback from this lab that our product, the variability is very high. So I want to send out a message through this webinar that my friends in the industry, please look at the reducing the variability in your product, improve the quality, and then only you will gear up for the export. For export, there are so many other things also required. That means you have to get some certification. If you want to go to the US, you have to get certification for mask, you have to go to NIOSH and get it certified. If you want to go to Europe, you have to CE certification is required. And now, yesterday only, we were actually having some other discussion with the ministry, and we heard that there is the Quality Council of India, QCI, has also set up the arrangement for certification in India, which they are trying to get it approved, or it should be honored by the importing countries. Now, coming to the variability and R&D part, now there is a need in these, either in center of excellences or in IITs or in even these other laboratories available. They should have some consultancy wings which should give the services to our medium and small type of industries for developing the product. And particularly the reducing the variability is more critical for the mask. If you see in a coverall, you use 4 to 5 meters of cloth, you test them at the various places, and what I said about the variability is high is because of that. Now you imagine, for making a mask, you are not using 4 to 5 meters. You are using only maybe about something like 6-inch by 4-inch piece. Within that, if your uniformity is not good, out of 10 masks, your 5 masks will fail. This is what I got the report from these labs, that this variability level is very high. And also the manufacturer of the masks are also saying that this product variability is high. Now coming to this, these changes are also going to happen in India. We have already developed the BIS standard, incorporating the vapor pressure test, antimicrobial test, and antivirus penetration tests, which are not being done today. But it is any moment of time, it is going to come. And my request to all friends in the industry, that even if 20-30 people have already done it, we need to do it at least, not 400, maybe at least another 40-50 people should come up. So that is
Great. Thank you.
I'll stop here.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rakshit. In fact, I have seen, I was happened to be in a hospital, and I interacted with the chief medical officer over there, and he said that breathability is a problem. I think we need to educate the doctors also, those who are the actual users. I think
I
Mr.
will just
Khosla
add
is
one
online.
point.
Mr. Khosla?
Yes.
Hello,
yes.
Mr. Khosla.
I'm happy to
Yeah,
join in.
welcome.
Yes. Good morning to everybody. Yeah. Good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah,
I already
I
introduced you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, just tell me your views on technical textiles being a family-owned business globally. What are your comments on that? Whether it can be also done in Indian technical textile industry? What are your comments on family-run technical textile business?
We all are aware that technical textile is a knowledge-based industry, and because of the it is very driven by technology and the knowledge. These two are very important inputs for a technical textile manufacturing company. And worldwide, it has been that generally the families have kept the knowledge and to themselves. So if you see in Europe, especially where the technical textiles had its roots, some of the earlier years and even till today, quite a lot of technical textile companies are family owned. So the sort of a pattern of ownership in technical textile is very much family oriented, especially because of the knowledge being knowledge based and keeping that knowledge within the family. That has been the main reason for its being more inclined towards a family owned business.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Dr. Ram, we were discussing about R&D activities in India. What do you think, whether it is sufficient or whether we need to do quite a lot in quality control?
First and foremost, what you have to do is, first, how do I develop this industry? It is not that what I can develop. It is what the customer wants. So that should be the case. It's not that I have this capability, my machine can do this. Rather, what is the need? So that's Amit touched upon. So that the government can give a helping and lifting hand. Amit has been working on this for a number of years, I know. Me too, many forums. These are the things which the government has to do to give you a landscape analysis. What are the products that are required domestically and what are the products that India can export at a competitive level? So that is the first and foremost one has to give, and associations like ETA can play an important role in providing this. Once you know this, this is the nightmare, and this keeps many entrepreneurs awake in the night, like me. What I'm doing now is, okay, I can develop a product. What do I do with that product? So that's first and foremost important. So if we don't have that, then there's no way the industry can grow. But there are people like Khosla who can do it because they have an establishment. They have been the trailblazers. But I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the next phase of people like Dr. Rakshit said, the 20 people who are coming up forefront. What are the products that are needed? So that is very important. So I give 4 things. This is very generic. So a lot of people pay this when we do it in Harvard and MIT, but this is what it is. So there are 4 S's. S for sugar. First and foremost, you need to sense. This is the basic prime for any industry, particularly technical textile industry. 4 S's. S stands for sugar. Sensing, then shaping, then when you develop the product, shielding and sustaining. That's all. Very easy. Sense. What are the products that will sell near term, long term? Then you shape the industry. How do you shape the industry? You work with industry association because those are the people, they are going to help you through the fiduciary part of it. Like Amit said, ease of business. Okay, HS and code. So when you can know the sensing, then work with an industry association, then form partnership with R&D association and academia. That has to be strengthened. Once you know this, then the technical textile products fall under 2 categories. One is shielding, another one is sustaining. Shielding involves masks, gowns, hospital grades, all those. Then acoustic and insulation products, all come under shielding. Then sustaining, wipes, cleaners, mops, commodity. So this is what we should do. It's not that an academic institution develops a product and they want to push it. You got to have this partnership, and it's very easy. Anybody can remember just 4 S's. Sense, shape, shield, sustain.
Great, great. Dr. Ram, is that we can make it mandatory for each and everyone who is manufacturing such type of products to have a certification?
You know, American and Europeans, we don't we don't like if somebody is forcing you on it. Self-certification is important, but like Dr.
Okay.
Rashid said, self-certification, but to get to that, I think industry associations and testing centers should help them.
Great, thanks. Amit, coming to you, you were first mover as far as technical textiles, especially agrotech and geotech business is concerned. What are your experiences? Can you just share on these particular two segments?
Again, coming back to the specific subject about the global outreach and what the subject we're talking about, as specifically mentioned by Dr. Ram right now, the product. As of now, if we talk about agrotech, it has say about 5 to 10 different products available. Maybe it's a shade netting, or a bird netting, or an insect netting, or a crop cover. Many things fall under the agrotextile line of business. And then if we can choose a specific item, which is the agro shade netting. In India, there are more than 125 companies as of now which make shade netting, but 95% of them are into the tape by tape qualities. That is, you have a tape yarn and you make a shade netting, which is less in weight, though they are 100% virgin materials with UV stabilization, but they are tape qualities with less weight, so that they can get higher shading factor. But internationally, for example, US, they're using mostly mono by mono, which is a monofilament yarn knitted into make a agro shade netting, or for that matter into the Middle East, where they are using the mono by tape quality as a combination, because it is a more heated area and they need more dense kind of fabric. So that is mono tape. So in India, I think the manufacturers, if we talk about the export and the global outreach, the focus had always been the domestic market because it was growing in and out, and therefore the concept was of more on the tape and tape. And I think not or less than 5% of the manufacturers have the capability to really go out at the mono by mono or the mono by tape kind of situation and export internationally, either to the US or to the Middle East. So the point is that if today the manufacturer is looking at the export opportunity vis-a-vis China, then how do you do? Because you don't have the capability in terms of the immediate equipment required to make the monofilament yarn and things like that. And secondly, how do you reach them? Because earlier also there used to be exhibitions and conferences where you meet customers and people like that. So companies which have a balance of domestic and export would be a better edge of getting into the next level of using that capability into the export market of mono tape. Or rather, the demand going less in the domestic market, they can shift to the export market because they need volumes. The container would mean more than a lakh square meter of fabric, so they need enough capabilities. And most of the shade netting companies, for example, in India, are SME with 2 machines, 4 machines, 6 machines, which is not big enough to really go out and fill up those volumes requirement of the international markets. So that is as far as the specifically agro shade netting a product is concerned, because there are multiple products and I can talk at length with regards to different products, but that is agro textile. If we talk about
one factor, just a minute on agrotech only. We did one study across India and we have seen some samples. Some shade factor was mentioned over there, but when we actually tested, that factor was totally different. So how to mandate this, that if at all they're talking of 75% shade factor, it has to be 75%. If it is 60, it has to be 60. But they just arbitrarily put some figures. How we can take care of this in agro textiles, because all farmers are related to this.
See, we started with the BIS in 2008 to mandate or to come out with the Indian standard of the agro shade netting, which is IS 16008 part 1 and part 2, which talks about the tape by tape and the mono by mono. So it was since 2008 that we came out with the basic standard, and at that point in time there was no speedometer for that matter, how to test a shading factor of a fabric. And then the SASMIRA, which is the Center of Excellence on Agrotextile, was given a job by the government of India to develop a shadometer. And the scientists at the SASMIRA, they developed a shadometer. So when you put a fabric into that machine, and there are rays which pass through that fabric and which give you the percentage factor about the shade factor of that fabric. So a variance of 5%, maybe from example, a 75% shading factor would in the range of 70% to 80% would be, 5%, that the difference would be accepted by the BIS standard 16008. So that is how over a period of time we came out with a standard fabric. So IS 16008 talks about the standardization which you are talking about. And the customer therefore buys a shade netting with an IS mark, would be able to be convinced themselves to be having that shade factor.
Okay, great. Come to geotech, please, in 2 minutes.
As far as the geotech specific geotech sector is concerned, I think that is a much more certification kind of a project, much more specification kind of a product, because it needs, for example, the Europe would need a C certification to be exported from India, and or for that matter anywhere from the world, because these are the materials and the fabrics which will have you will have to have give not a guarantee or a warranty, but it should perform for 100 years for that matter, because the road construction industry, or for that matter, the railways or the infrastructure sector will need these fabrics will be there for a long term. And therefore the specification, for example, if you want to export to US, you need NTPEP, which is the National Transportation Product Evaluation Program. It costs you a hell lot of money and time consuming process, and institutes like TRI laboratories in US does this kind of testings and give you the certification, and only then you can export to countries like the United States. So if you talk of geotech, you have to have the right equipment, the right product, and as Dr. Ram said, you need to have the product which is required by the customer, and that is where the customer with that specification and the certificate attached is what would be the technical section look like, not rather what you made and he will buy it. So for example, a parachute fabric is of no value, it doesn't perform the test required for the air permeability or the water absorption for that matter. So I think
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Amit. Yeah, let's go to next poll question. Will the COVID-19 help India in gaining market share in the global technical textile industry? I repeat, will the COVID-19 help India in gaining market share in global technical textile industry? You have 3 choices, either say yes, no, or say can't say. All audience to give this answer, please.
We'll give it another 20 seconds.
Yeah.
%74% yes, 8% no, 18% can't say.
Okay. Thanks, Tanvir. Coming again, now we have seen how things have happened till now, but we have very challenging world which will be post-COVID or COVID-19 and beyond. In order to assess this particular situation, there are 2 esteemed panelists with us to whom I would be addressing this. Dr. Rakshit, what do you think that will COVID give a fillip to Indian technical textile sector beyond Protech and Meditech? So whether all 12 segments or few of them will perform quite well? What is your opinion on this? Dr. Rakshit, please.
Yeah, thank you. You see, in my view, I would say yes, because if you see that particularly if you talk about beyond Protech or Meditech segments arising out of this current situation and making our life totally changed a style of our life. For example, I would say that we were never using the face masks, not for the medical purpose, is a non-medical purpose. Now that mask has becoming a fashion, will become a fashion icon for the and fashion item, sorry, for the next maybe couple of years. Now already people have developed the face mask matching with your dress, with for the ladies, for the gents and all that. So this is another industry which, for example, is like apparel industry. We'll have a big opportunity to come up with their designing concepts and other things. Correct. So this is a business which is from this is going to an apparel kind of non-medical masks area. Now, next is, let us say, the about the awareness on hygiene. We were not using these wipes so often, or the along with these hand sanitizer and other things. So the wipes market, which is also is another big market of nonwovens, majority of them, can grow to exponentially in future. Similarly, if you say that there are a lot of machinery, now how to dispose of these contaminated coveralls, masks and all that? Either you burn it, incinerate it, or you have to, some cases you can recycle it also. Now these leads to many of the machine manufacturers to come up to make the machine for how to recycle them, how to first of all clean them, wash them and recycle them and put into the same in another non-oven production, etc. So machinery industry, wipes industry, then even the fashion industry, and these are the industry taking out of these experience and all that. In future they are going to grow. I'll tell you some even example, live example. In the month of January, February, there was no melt blown non-oven machine manufacturers in India. Now within 2 months there are 2 manufacturers have come up in India. One is that RR Enterprises and one is Raj Enterprises. So anyway, they have come up new. They may have to establish their product, their machine, their calibrations, their quality and all that, doesn't matter. But this development is a very healthy development. There are 1 or 2 more manufacturers, Capitec and all, have come up with the high-end mask manufacturing machine, which is semi-automatic and also going to be automatic in another 2 or 3 weeks. So this is what is the crisis makes us this opportunity. This opportunity has been grabbed by some of the entrepreneurs, and we are very happy to say that this is what the change is happening in India. So that
Okay,
then
thanks.
in many more areas it's going to happen.
Yeah, Dr. Ram, what are your views on this? Whether it would be Philip to Indian Technical Textiles beyond Protech and Meditech, any other products also will able to produce?
Yes. So I'll take 2 minutes, but just bear with me because I want people to get easy information which is usable. Okay, I gave you 4 yes. Now I'm going to give you 3 products. One within technical textiles. Don't worry about all the confusing 12 segments. Depending where you are, where your strength is. If you are a commodity cotton fabric producer, think for products that can get you into value addition beyond your fiber to fashion supply chain. So I call technical textile into 3 categories. One, consumer based. Second is industrial, where an industrial sector buys in bulk. And the third one is government procurement. That's all. So for example, if you are looking into a cotton fabric producer, think about certain value added formulation and finishing. For example, make it an hydrophobic or hydrophilic depending upon the application. So there is an easy way to diversify. So do not worry about all those technicalities and jargons. You know now how your industry has to be moved along using those 4 Yes. Look into 3 product categories: consumer textiles, industrial technical textile, into which medical procurement, infrastructure procurement, automobile procurements are there. Third one is defense procurement. Defense procurements need stringent standards, but once you establish a relationship like an Indian marriage, you stay put. It needs working, but once you do it, you have a defined market, margin is there, so that can cater to domestic to start with, and then friendly countries can pick on it. Consumer products, margin is less, volume is more. Defined industrial procurements, okay, like hospital sectors, automotive sectors, infrastructure. Third one is defense. So those are the 3. Is that a growth? I'll give you a story and I'll stop. I'm going to ask you to imagine that you are a 5-year-old boy or a girl and an 18-year-old boy or a girl, an infant and an adolescent, who will grow faster? You know this. Beyond 18 to 20 years, you don't grow tall. You stay put. You are saturated. Whereas anywhere from, even from when you are in mother's womb all the way up to 15, you are going to see the growth. That's what India is. Right. So imagine that we are a 5-year-old, whereas United States and Europe are 18 to 20. The growth is saturated. China is getting there. You can inch the gap, narrow the gap between India and China. That statistics I gave. So the growth is there, but do not do the products for which there is no need. How do you do that? Your trade associations should do. International associations regularly put out. Avinash comes quite often. You don't have to go. You can ask them. Now, United States and Europe are looking for partners beyond China. Before they go to Vietnam, it's time that they catch up. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ram. Mr. Khosla, I would like
Yes.
to have your opinion. According to you, what are the two things Indian industry should do to be a prominent player in the market? And second one, according to you, how much would be the growth? So first part, what we should do, and second part, how much is your estimated growth rate, CAGR, which we call it? Mr. Khosla, please.
I would like to just give you a small sort of a preface to the whole thing. You see, nothing comes out with until unless there is a disruption. And you know, popularly it is known as necessity is the mother of invention. Maybe COVID has brought in that opportunity where the regular businesses have been affected in a big way. But I have been always been promoting the concept that the Indian manufacturers have been always looking internally. Every time we discuss, there is always a question, even with big business houses, that what is the Indian market? If the technical textile industry in India has to grow, the people who are there and people who want to enter, they have to think globally. They have to think about the global market. If you put projects in India which are only for the Indian market, it is not going to really be successful. And that has already led to India losing a lot of opportunities in several products where the companies from Europe and US went to China rather than coming to India because they felt that China was able to give them the scale and the opportunity that India did not give 25 years, 30 years back. And so China, as Dr. Ramkumar said, is about 5-10 years ahead of us. But this is the right time to think global. And almost, if you see today, the products that India will be successful, where we can integrate between the international and the domestic market, you have to see the Indian economy. We are an agriculture-based economy, so the agro-tech sector will definitely be a great sector where India can be a good exporter of products. If you see at the geotech sector, we are growing in infrastructure. So that sector again is a sector which will possibly find a great export all over the world. Then if you look at Indutech, because we are talking about the GDP growth in India, which may have suffered temporarily, I feel that India will jump back as soon as we are over it. So that is another sector where both the Indian and international market will grow. Meditech, we have already seen. I don't have to say that how quickly India jumped to it. You know, Pactech, many people, I do not know if many of the viewers know, are also a very big, exporter. So if you all put together, you know, there are quite a few of these sectors which have great potential, you know, internationally. When you say about what is the CGR, I would not like to pin a growth percentage, because I have great faith in the Indian industry. And now that this sleeping tiger has been woken up, and we have seen that Meditech has been at the front page for the last couple of months, and in the last 5-10 years, 5-6 years, since we got ITA together, there has been a huge coming together and gathering of mass in the Indian industry towards technical textile. So I feel
That's true.
that putting a figure of 10, 15, 20%, I would not like to put that. I would say the sky is the limit, because there are sectors
Great.
which are open. So this is my view, that there is
Okay,
a huge
thanks.
scope, and the views have to be global. It cannot be just Indian.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Khosla. Amit, what are your views? Which are the two things which our industry should do, and what would be the growth rate?
Again, as what Mr. Khosla has said, sir, growth rate estimation, just to give you a number, is not fair on my side as well. But the growth will depend on independent companies. I mean, my company, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses? Based on that, my company can grow as, be as in
Still, you can just give an average figure for the entire industry.
maybe 15 to 20% should be a no-go at all. I mean, we are into growth trajectory. I mean, it's just an inflection point from where we just don't have to look back. I mean, it's all the effort that all of us has to put in to capture the international fraternity of the technical textile, get them to country, get them to put up plants in India, and the country can grow fantastically from here. And there is no doubt about it. I mean, we are at the right point, at the right place, sir. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And
Thank you. Dr. Rakshit, which two things we should do?
I would say two things. Number one is quality, which I earlier mentioned. Quality is the first of you produce the quality product. Number two is that focus on the export. I just want to elaborate, which I earlier also dealt with, but particularly on the export front, couple of points I just want to make in half a minute. Number one is, we have been seeing, because we are analyzing DGCIS, our export data in ITA, and we are also publishing in our bulletins regularly. If you see that our export band is something like varying from 12 to 14,000 crores out of our total production of nearly 2 lakh crores of technical textiles in India domestic. Now, this is a very small and meager amount of export. There is first of all, huge scope for the export. Now, what is happening in very short, today out of these 13 to 14,000 crores, we are almost more than 40% is PACTEC. That also only mainly the FIBC products.
Right.
So, which is really a very sad part of it. That is how I would say sad, because we have got so much of scientific manpower, so much of good entrepreneurs, but then focus is not there on export. So that's why I say our focus should be on export. Now, in this export, now a current opportunity, all entrepreneurs are listening, has to be grabbed. Means the vacuum which is created due to the exit of the China of various countries, they have to they have to grab this opportunity. And there are various fields. It is not only medical textile, because today buzzword is medical textile. It could be agro-textile, geotextiles, it could be the automotive sector, it could be filter, industrial segments. There are enormous opportunities. But this opportunity, one has to understand, again, go back to the quality. Are we ready for the export market, which Dr. Ram has mentioned? Have we understood what is required by the European buyers? Have we understood what European buyer, American buyers or Japanese buyer? No, very limited. So this has to grow. Understand the specification, develop the product, and then only can be done. Now we are always talking about the fabric, many of the people fabric export. But I would just plead to the people that why should we do the fabric export? Convert into the garment, convert into the made up, where you can actually add value of at least 30 to 40% more, and export the finished product.
Yeah.
So that's
what is your estimate? What is your estimate of the percentage growth?
The estimate is, again, as Mr. Agarwal and Mr. Khosla has said, is very difficult to give the figure. But I would say, as a ballpark, earlier If it was actually earlier, some of these baseline surveys and all that, it was coming around 12 to 30, 12, around 12 to 13%. But
Okay.
if we are able to grab this opportunity, it is definitely going to grow about to, can reach about 20% with this current scenario.
Fine.
18,
Dr.
20%.
Ram, your estimate on the growth?
You know this, Avinash, way back in 2008, we were the first one who predicted the growth until 2050. Even baseline survey by ministry did not do. That
That's
time,
true.
it based on the GDP growth. That time it was the PPP. How does this industry work? This industry works on correlation with the purchasing power parity. I'm not going to go too much economics. At that level, India was $1,000. Consumption was 100 grams. United States was 40,000. Consumption was 3 kilogram. The industry trend is the industry will mature when it is 3 kilograms. So there's a tremendous growth in this decade. So roughly it will be around 13 to 15%. So it's always good to be on a conservative side. But even though I predicted way back in 2008, which is the one International Trade Association uses, European Commission uses, you Google it, you will know India rising. That's the standard benchmark. So it will be in double digits. But I agree, one should not put numbers. Economics is basically numbers. Wall Street topples based on sensation as well. So just to put the projects, to fill in the balance sheets, you need some number. So it will be anywhere around 13 to 15%. I always go on conservative side. You go on a conservative side in economics, it always helps. So it will be around 13 to 15%.
Fine. Dr. Ram, I'm just taking some clue from what you have said earlier. You said that China is ahead by 10%. If at all you see global scenario, then Europe and USA, they are almost 40-45%. China is at 15%, as you have said, and we are just at 5%. So if at all there is any degradation happens because of post-COVID-19 issue, there is a, I think, limit of almost 5 to 6% coming in the global market. According to you, out of these 5 or 6%, how much percentage India can take?
You can simply catch 50% of it, because the other countries they are targeting are basically in Vietnam. It has its limitation, and Indonesia.
I agree. I fully agree with you. So if it is 50%, it comes to almost 2 to 3%, and that is what we are doing now. So it is as good as growth, which would be almost 80 to 90%. This is just a statistic, I think, but that would be available because post COVID-19, many things are going to happen. There is one question which I would like to have, Dr. Rakshit, please. How is the process of procurement of medical kits? This is one question which has come from audience.
Achha, now,
Mr. Michael, can I just add?
No, we are just taking questions. We are now short of time. We have to close. So
no, I just want to add with one sentence from Dr. Ram. You know, a lot of people are talking of Vietnam, but when it comes to technical textiles, after China, India is the only country which can fill in this gap because of the technical skill power that we have. The Vietnam will not be able to be a contender. They can be a contender for normal textiles and garments, but for technical textile, this is a fantastic, I think, opportunity which I wanted to highlight actually.
Yeah, Dr. Rakshit.
Yeah,
can you just?
I'll answer that question. Now basically it has started with the procurement by Hindustan Life Science Limited, HLL, which we have been there. They are floating tender and they are procuring these products, PPE kits, and distributing all over India as per the requirement of the hospitals and various states and the towns. Number one. But that was actually too much of pressure. We came to know that HLL was actually having too much of load. So gradually, many of these hospitals in the state level and the center level also, they are directly procuring from and they are floating tender. There was recently a tender from the Indian Institute of Management, AIIMS also, and they have floated, and various other people also. But now the very recently, which I posted to all the members are, government has told us the members are requested to register in GEM, GEM, there is a portal for the government procurement portal. So in this portal, the in future gradually all the purchase process will be through this portal only, and the tenders will be available in this portal, and those who have registered, because I know many people have asked me how to register and all that, we have guided them, and then the registration process is on, and I request all the entrepreneurs to register as early as possible. That is going to be the future.
Fine. Thank you, Dr. Rakshit. So most of the other questions we have already answered in our discussions. Coming to the concluding remarks, I would say India is having very good potential. We are already having the gap, which as I stated to Dr. Ram, that almost 2 to 3% gap is there of global market, and we have that access to it if at all we take 50% of the gap. Next thing is that there is some sort of anti-China sentiment which is coming up in the global market. We need to develop needs for technical textiles. Ours is a developing country, and all developing countries will have very good potential for the technical textile products. And India has created a very good global image as far as entire space is concerned. It is political, it is economical, as well as it is from the stability point of view. Global market of technical textile products, if we analyze, most of the products are having high value added products like mobile tech, industrial techs, and sports tech. If we see industrial market, if we see Indian market of technical textiles, our products are pack tech, which is 42%, home tech and Indo tech. These are not that value added products. So we have to switch over from these products to more value added products. Meditech, in Meditech, almost 64% is non-oven, oven is 16%, and knitted and threaded is 20%. So we need to focus on non-oven products more from the point of view of statistics. India has many strengths. India is having huge market. India has skilled power. India has resources like raw material and people. And at the same time, the government has willingness to support the industry. The way we have done in Meditech, I'm sure we can do in not all 12 segments, but most of them. And that's why India is having very good strengths. Whereas our weakness is that we don't have technology which is available for most of the non-ovens and as well as technical textiles. Marketing of products, there we need a lot of skills, and there we need to focus more in order to cater to the global markets, and we need to be cost competitiveness. At the same time, as Dr. Rakshit has 3 times said, I will always say quality, quality, and quality. If at all we are talking of functional textiles, quality means a lot. So understanding the needs of the customer and supplying them, that's what is the need of the hour. So we have a very good discussion. Thank you all panelists. Thanks Dr. Ram. Thanks Dr. Rakshit, Amit, as well as Mr. Khosla. Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure with all of you. Thanks to ITJ for organizing this. Anything else, Tanvir, you want to announce something? You can do that, please.
We've had over 600 attendees for this webinar, so thank you all for being a part of this. And let's hope to bring India to a new level in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.